Hello, it's Cheryl Cadzow here with another Doodle art tutorial. This time it's number 7 and it's a little bird. First of all, we sketch out the little bird in pencil. Get all the shape sorted out and mark out where we want everything to go. Once I've done the shape, I move on to a heavier texture and I start filling in all the outline. It's just like a fine texture, but not as fine as the uni pen. Then I mark out all the areas that I want to start doing the doodle. I try to work in something that's sympathetic with the shape of whatever I'm doing, and I sort of have a kind of pattern in my mind, and this time I've tried to stick with a lot of the three-dimensional style patterns, but I've resorted back to some of the older ones as well. Once you're happy with where you want to put your lines, I've got a 0.8. This will do all the edges. It's not as thick as the texture, but it gives the starting point for the doodle. I'm now using a 0.5. It's about midway and it does a reasonable line but not too thick. I just start off with something simple to get the first little area filled in. Sometimes I refer to other doodles that I've done or sample sheets to fill in whatever I want to do. Here I've put the same little bubble pattern on the other side. Doesn't matter if you use it a couple of times, it's fine. Now I'm using the 0.1. It's a fine, very fine pen. Great for little light decorations. Back to the 0.5 to do lines. I don't know whether I'll fill them in later on or not. I often resort back to bubbles and circles. You can have just individual circles, or as I'm doing with the 0.1, I'm doing fine lines across to fill it in. I don't want too much white space in this little bird. It's nice to have it completely filled, although it's really up to you how you would like to have it. In this wing, I've given several little bands so that I can try all different sorts of styles to fill it in. To break up having the same thing in a large area, sometimes it's fun to do little parts of a pattern in a small area and repeat it. And you can do it on the other side too if you like, or not at all. You don't have to balance what you're doing, but sometimes when there's two, like two wings, I sometimes will do the same or the same weight. Sometimes I won't. Now I'm using the texture to fill in the bands. It's a lot easier. Back to the 0.1, it's very fine. I'm just giving it a little bit of shading to give it a 3D look to it. Lots of little scales here, just to fill it in again. As I said, you can use any kind of pattern you like. You can resort to just using 4 or 5 patterns repeated again, but sometimes you can get things a little bit too close and the same pattern will be matched up against another panel, and that's not as nice. I decided to put little dots in the scales because I didn't like the scales on their own. If anybody is interested in a sample sheet, I can do one for this bird too. Just do the same as with the others. Tick like, make a comment below and say yes please, and I will send you the email details, and I'll be able to send you a copy of a sampler for the patterns that I used in this bird, or any of the other ones. If you want some of the others, let me know. Just name which doodle it is, and if I haven't done a sample pattern for it, I can do one. I quite enjoy doing them, and they're very useful for myself. I've noticed that on this wing I'm putting a lot of dark, so I may have to put some more dark on the other wing, but because this wing is closer to you, it doesn't hurt that it's darker. The little beads are another great one for filling. Now onto the 0.5. Just gives it a little bit of dimension with that little flick in the bead. It's fun to try all different sorts of patterns. There are hundreds of them. You can take them from nature, like scales or hairs or dots. You can take them from ripples in the water. You can go down to molecules, like the dots and circles. This one I'm doing now is like a basket weave. Sometimes I pre-work out which way it's going to go. This time I decided to just fill in the gaps, make them black, and then work out which way I want the weave to go. It's really fun, and it gives it a 3D look. And see, with the dark patches, it's balancing up the weight of the dark patches on the other wing. I don't know if I consciously do that or whether it's just something that I do automatically now, but it's worth thinking about. I don't know if you can see it, but these little circles have little lines for them to give them a 3D look. Sometimes I do this pattern, but it doesn't always work. It got a bit funny towards the end of the tail, and I wasn't really happy with it, but it wasn't too bad. I changed the style around the tail because it didn't quite fit in. But towards the end, when I add colour to it in Photoshop, you can fix up some of those little mistakes and make it look even better. I was getting a bit sick of that pattern, so I decided to try something different. Sometimes just the curved stripes are nice with the alternating black and white. As I said, you can try anything. That's why it's handy to have a sampler sheet with you to keep referring to get different sorts of pattern ideas. Here I've decided to put some mattress springs in. And then I'd just like to fill the body part with the little like snowflakes. Once I filled that in, I made them heavier a lot at the bottom to give the idea of weight and shadow. But I softened it off towards the head. I didn't want them all around the face. And then later on I added in some smaller dots. I still wasn't overly happy with it. Sorry, but I didn't realise that the camera was not capturing the whole of the wing. I do turn it around later on. I'm using the fine liner, the 0.1, to fill in little lines in those bands. Just gives it a little bit of a three-dimensional look. It's nice to finish off the beak as well. Just a few more little panels, and you can put anything in there. Sometimes I use patterns like lace work and another little bit of black to finish it off. Now when I've finished, sometimes I like to darken up the inside lines. It just makes the little areas pop out even better, especially if you're going to colour it in later on. I don't always colour these in by hand, but I often scan them and take it into Photoshop and then drop colours in, which is what I've done at the end. I decided the little diamonds needed a dot in them. They were a little bit boring, and I think it looks better for it. Anything you like. It's up to you to put in whatever you like. I'm pretty pleased with this now. Just those little dots that I wanted to finish that off. I just felt it wasn't quite full enough in the middle. It's quite painstaking doing these dots, but with the fine 0.1, they're nice little tiny light dots. Now I've scanned this and dropped colours in Photoshop, and you can alter the hue in Photoshop. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to thumbs up and leave a comment. If you'd like to see other shapes done, let me know. And if you'd like a sampler, just thumbs up, say yes please, and I will email you a sampler. Thank you. Enjoy.